Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. The tornado death toll rises. We take a look at the aftermath in Kentucky and hear from survivors on how they're doing and what's next. New York City's vaccine mandates now expand to kids as young as 5 years old. Although some say they're ready to get the shot, opinions differ on this new policy. Will Mark Meadows be held in contempt of Congress? The House committee investigating the January 6 Capitol breach follows up on a threat to do so after Meadows refused to cooperate with the probe. The Navy says they've identified the source of contaminated tap water that went to Hawaii military households, a jet fuel spill. More than 100 people are unaccounted for in Kentucky as of Monday night after the deadliest December tornado outbreak on record. NTD's Jessica Beatty has the latest.
The death toll in Kentucky from a string of tornadoes rose to 74 Monday, with at least 109 people still unaccounted for, according to Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, and he expects that number to rise.
But as I look at this broken down by county, it's way more people unaccounted for than this. 81 of these are in Hopkins County alone.
Hundreds of miles of death and devastation spawned by at least 5 confirmed tornadoes are being investigated by the National Weather Service. The Kentucky Emergency Management Director says one tornado may have broken a distance record.
So the longest track, I believe we're up to an estimated 227 miles. That would be one of the longest in U.S. history, if not the longest.
Survivors say they feel lucky to be alive. Immigrant Alejandra Lopez Ramos hid in a closet with her husband and 6 children when the tornadoes arrived in Mayfield, Kentucky Friday.
It's very terrible what happened. I thank God. Thanks to him, we were able to escape. He protected us from this awful thing.
Communities now starting the long road to recovery. Teresa Herndon arrived at the remains of her home to salvage what she could, but she didn't expect to find family, strangers, and dozens of friends to help her.
I did not call a single person. These people showed up. They showed up. I get up, and they are here.
Herndon's home was swept off its foundation Friday night, and she might have been too, if not for a surprise trip to Las Vegas that night from her daughter.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Herndon's nephew says it's unbelievable what happened.
I'll tell you this, you get down sometimes and you think that people were more divided than we are, but we are not. There is a common bond. People are good. People are good.
Around the corner, mechanic and part-time pastor Alan Vinson says he's just relieved that his family made it through.
The biggest thing is we have prayer, we have faith, and we have hope. And it's all going to be okay.
President Biden plans to visit Kentucky Wednesday to survey the devastation. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
The January 6 committee voted to recommend that Mark Meadows be held in contempt of Congress. Last week, Meadows said he would not appear to testify at the committee's request. The House committee investigating the January 6 Capitol breach voted 9-0 on Monday, passing a recommendation to hold former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in contempt. The committee threatened to do this last week after Meadows refused to cooperate with its probe. Committee Chairman Representative Benny Thompson comments on Meadows' legacy.
Whatever legacy he thought he left in the House, this is his legacy now. His former colleagues singing him out for criminal prosecution because he wouldn't answer questions about what he knows about a brutal attack on our democracy.
Last week, Meadows declined to appear for a deposition at the committee's request. Meadows also sued the committee. He argues that it does not have the authority to force him to talk. His lawsuit asks a judge to invalidate 2 subpoenas. He says they are overly broad and unduly burdensome, though committee member Adam Schiff sees it differently.
Mr. Meadows' behavior and his refusal to do his moral duty shows why we need stronger tools to enforce congressional subpoenas. It's an issue I've worked on for years. But in the absence of those changes, we will use the tools that we have.
The committee's vote sends the measure to the House, which is expected to vote on it as soon as Tuesday. The House vote will be on whether to send the recommended charges to Biden's Justice Department. Then the DOJ would decide whether to prosecute Meadows. This comes as lawmakers are demanding Meadows' testimony about former President Trump's actions surrounding the Capitol breach. The vote recommending a criminal charge against Meadows comes from 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the committee. The 2 Republicans have been outspoken critics of former President Trump. New York City's new vaccine mandates are in place this week. Requirements now extend to children as young as 5 years old. The new policy means that kids must scramble to get a shot, otherwise they won't be able to dine out or participate in after-school activities.
While these children are taking a class in Manhattan, they're also digesting the city's new vaccine mandate, as many adults are. Most are on board with the plan.
I don't think people should have a choice because you have to get it or else you'll get COVID and you won't be able to go anywhere.
Others are wary of having their hand forced.
America is free. People should have a choice to get a shot or not.
Mayor Bill de Blasio is requiring children ages 5 to 11 to get at least 1 shot by Tuesday. And those 12 and older must be fully vaccinated by December 27th, a deadline for workers in all trades as well. The city's website shows that only about 19% of kids ages 5 to 12 are fully vaccinated. The rates are much higher for adults. De Blasio's successor, Eric Adams, signaled that when he takes office in January, he will evaluate the mandate among other pandemic strategies. And across New York State, another mask mandate is in place. Starting Monday, shops and other indoor spaces will require either vaccination or a mask for entry. This as an effort to ward off the highly transmissible Omicron variant, though some have a different view.
Omicron, if that's what it is, should give us immunity against the virus, better than the next vax. We can't keep boosting. It's not healthy.
The rule will stay in effect until at least January 15th. Violators can face civil and criminal penalties, including fines of up to $1,000.
The Air Force has discharged 27 service members who refused to get vaccinated against COVID-19. They are likely the first troops to be removed from the military for defying the vaccine mandate, as the Air Force had the earliest vaccination deadline. Its members were required to be fully vaccinated by November 2nd. Air Force Reserve and Air National Guard members had until December 2nd. 37 individuals were already discharged for refusing the vaccine during basic training. The Air Force says as of last week, more than 97% of its active duty force is at least partially vaccinated, along with roughly 92% of its Air Guard and Reserve Force. There are currently more than 7,300 unvaccinated Air Force troops. Many of those cases are pending religious exemption requests. The most recent data indicates that more than 1,000 Air Force members have refused the vaccine, so more discharges are likely. A Northern California city declared itself a constitutional republic last November after disagreeing with COVID mandates. They say their rights are being infringed upon. NTD's Eileen Ng hears more from the Vice Mayor.
That this motion be approved. I'll second that.
It's been over a month since the city of Oroville in California declared itself a constitutional republic.
And that's really what this declaration is a public declaration of saying, hey, we disagree, I disagree with the way that this pandemic is being handled. And so I put it up and we voted on it and it passed 6-1. So
Scott Thompson, vice mayor of Oroville, said the COVID-19 mandates infringe on people's rights. Many of its 20,000 residents, a balance of Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, agreed at the public meeting on November 2nd. Being a constitutional republic is only a change in name for now, but the purpose is to make a statement. Thompson said the idea comes from when Governor Gavin Newsom declared San Francisco a sanctuary city. He says there is government overreach.
We have rights that are endowed by our Creator, inalienable rights endowed by our Creator. And also a republic, which in essence means a separation of powers. And that's not what we have with this emergency, declaration that we've been going on. And by the time this next extension, by the time that finishes, it'll be 2 years of emergency powers. That's not what it was designed for.
Thompson said they have not had any contact so far from the state or federal government. There is a looming threat of a lack of funding, but for now, things are peaceful. He said he would choose freedom over finances any time. Thompson added that 90% of the people who contact them have been supportive. Last year, 3 counties, also in Northern California, defied Newsom's lockdown orders and decided to reopen businesses. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
Hundreds of millions of devices worldwide could be exposed to a newly revealed software vulnerability. A Biden administration cyber official is warning industry executives to address what she calls one of the most serious flaws she's ever seen. The vulnerability is in a Java-based software called Log4j. Some of the world's biggest tech firms use it to log data. Experts say suspected Chinese hackers are attempting to use it to break into organizations' computer networks, and that it could take weeks to address the vulnerabilities. Attackers reportedly had more than a week's head start on exploited the software flaw before it was publicly disclosed. Organizations are now in a race against time to figure out if their systems were exposed. No U.S. troops will be punished over a botched drone strike in August that killed 10 civilians, including 7 children, in Kabul. The botched strike came after an ISIS-K suicide bomber killed 13 U.S. service members and many more Afghans in a bombing at Kabul's international airport. The threat of another attack in the final days of the U.S. military withdrawal compounded the pressure that led up to the drone strike. Following a review of the strike, the heads of Central Command and Special Operations Command were asked to make recommendations to improve Defense Department policies and procedures. But Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said their recommendations did not include holding any military personnel accountable or punishing troops involved in the strike.
Secretary reviewed their recommendations. I won't get into all of them. Some of them are understandably classified, but he approved their recommendations. So I do not anticipate there being issues of personal accountability to be had with respect to the August 29th airstrike.
Pentagon officials initially defended the strike before going on to call it a tragic mistake as a result of execution errors. The Pentagon later acknowledged that the military had tracked the wrong vehicle for hours as it built up what it thought was evidence of dangerous activity needed to conduct a strike. The Navy has pinpointed the cause of water contamination in the Hawaiian island of Oahu. Officials say it came from a jet fuel spill instead of a leak from aging underground fuel tanks, as previously claimed.
According to a top Navy official, 14,000 gallons of jet fuel spilled at the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility last month. Some of the fuel went into the Navy's water distribution system and contaminated the tap water that serves around 93,000 people, including those in military housing. The spill was cleaned up, but people have complained for weeks of foul-smelling water, and some have said they have gone to hospitals because of cramps or vomiting after they drank the water.
This affects not just our families, but our bigger ohana out here, which is the community at large, the native Hawaiians and the other civilian members of the community.
Before the cause of contamination was identified, the Environmental Protection Agency was called in to determine whether the Navy's water is safe to drink. Testing last week found the presence of petroleum in the water from a well located near an underground fuel tank complex. The aging complex has been the source of multiple fuel leaks over the years, and samples collected at another one of the Navy's shafts reported diesel fuel levels more than double Hawaii health limits for drinking water, according to the state health department. But the Navy said the sample didn't come directly from the Navy's well and don't believe it indicated contamination.
Mobile Diving Salvage Unit 1 was tasked to perform some inspection and sampling in the affected well. We're also out here now progressing to a skimming operation so that we can help the Navy get to the next step of what their plan is for rehabilitation of this well.
Navy officials have moved more than 3,000 families to hotels. They will stay there until the problem is resolved. The overall water system, along with those in all impacted homes and facilities, will be flushed with clean water. The Navy said they hope to complete the process by Christmas.
The Senate is set to raise the national debt limit today. They will use a special one-time process created specifically for this vote after Republicans insisted Democrats raise the limit on their own. The process will allow them to do so with a simple majority vote. They can achieve this without any Republican support if every Democratic senator signs on and Vice President Kamala Harris casts a tie-breaking vote. It's not known how much Democrats plan to raise the debt limit. It's expected it will be enough to ensure the issue doesn't come up again before next year's midterm elections. The Democrat-controlled House will also have to approve the measure before it can go to President Biden for his signature. The Federal Reserve is holding a key two-day meeting this week to discuss interest rates and inflation. It comes as Americans are paying more for nearly everything, including rent, gas, and food. New data shows consumers are seeing the highest price increases in decades when it comes to groceries and restaurant meals. Here's a look at what's behind these historic price hikes.
Dining out or dining at home? No matter the option, most Americans are feeling the pinch. New data shows groceries and restaurant prices are the highest they've been in decades.
These are what most people spend most of their money on. So when there's even a few dollars of a price increase, it makes a big difference in the average person's pocketbook.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, restaurant prices spiked nearly 6% over the 12 months ending in November without seasonal adjustments. That's the largest 12-month increase since 1982.
What that means is that people are not going to be eating as well. They're certainly not going to be eating out as much.
And if you thought you could save more by cooking at home, think again. Grocery prices are also at record highs. They jumped more than 6%, the largest 12-month increase since 2008. Beef had the most dramatic price spike at nearly 21%.
You're seeing prices in grocery stores go up. Most people spend the majority of their money on rent, food, and fuel. And so when those things go up, it really hurts.
The hikes in food are part of a bigger trend. Consumer price inflation, which includes gas prices, rose by 6.8% in the 12-month period ending in November, hitting its highest level in 39 years.
It's the worst inflation that we've seen in 3 decades, so it's bad, and it's really unusual.
It's the Federal Reserve's job to fight inflation. And this week, there's added pressure on the Fed to take action during its scheduled two-day meeting.
Supply chain and labor pressures are contributing to price increases across the board. Restaurants, food manufacturers, and grocers are all facing higher costs for items, labor, and transportation. And as those costs rise, manufacturers pass off some of them to their retail consumers, who in turn charge consumers a portion of those increases. A California animal welfare law could make bacon and other fresh pork products more expensive when the new rules take effect on January 1st. But the lack of specific regulations and a new lawsuit are creating uncertainty as to how the new law may impact pork producers and consumers.
California's Proposition 12, known as the Farm Animal Confinement Initiative, faces 2 new challenges before it takes place next month. Proposition 12 requires farmers to provide a minimum of 24 square feet of floor space per breeding pig. Pork producers who do not comply with the minimum requirements will not be allowed to sell their pork products. California voters passed Prop 12 in 2018. Since then, state officials have missed deadlines for releasing specific regulations outlining the humane treatment of farm animals. The California Department of Food and Agriculture is again revising the regulations guiding the implementation of Proposition 12. The department is accepting public comments through December 17th for suggested changes. The CDFA has not yet finalized or released all final regulations. Adding to the uncertainty, the measure faces another lawsuit. The California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, a meat processor company, and a coalition of 3 California associations filed a lawsuit in the Sacramento Superior Court last month, seeking to delay Proposition 12 by 28 months. The case is currently set for a hearing in March 2022, according to AP News. If the law takes effect on January 1st, it is possible for the state to avoid immediate shortages or price increases. As of October, the U.S. cold storage reports around 447.1 million pounds of pork in storage.
The Boy Scouts of America has announced a proposed settlement to compensate survivors of sexual abuse. Insurance companies under the Chubb Corporation are making the deal with BSA. Chubb says those entities agreed to pay $800 million. That money would go into a trust for survivors that advocates say is the largest of its kind in history. BSA says the trust total could ultimately exceed $2.7 billion. The organization is still in the middle of bankruptcy proceedings, and the plan still needs court approval. An attorney for some of the victims says the agreement isn't enough. It is reported that more than 92,000 claims of sexual abuse by former Scouts have been filed. According to a Michigan judge, the teen accused of killing 4 students at a Michigan school last month will remain an adult in an adult jail for now. An attorney representing 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley argued that the boy should be moved to a juvenile facility, saying that Crumbley shouldn't be considered a menace to other juveniles. She presented the argument during Crumbley's probable cause conference, a type of hearing where a judge determines if enough evidence exists to schedule a trial. The judge declined to transfer Crumbley to a juvenile facility, citing the nature of the charges and security risks, but agreed that the jail needs to make sure the boy can't hear or see grown-up inmates. Crumbley is being charged as an adult with first-degree murder, terrorism, and assault. That's after he allegedly killed 4 classmates and injured 7 other people in the November 30th Oxford High School shooting just north of Detroit. He's pleading not guilty. Crumbley's parents are facing involuntary manslaughter charges, accused of giving the gun to Ethan as a gift. A new poll by Fairleigh State University shows that about 40% of Americans believe politicians are trying to strip Christmas of its religious elements. Earlier, I spoke with Tom Mullen, who is the author of An Anti-State Christmas, to get his perspective on this.
The government wants to replace religion. I mean, they want us to worship them and follow their every dictate, no matter how ridiculous. And unfortunately, a large part of the population seems to go along with it.
In 2013, only 29% of Americans thought politicians were trying to take Christ out of Christmas. Why has there been such a sharp increase lately?
Well, I think with all of the, we've been in the midst of this real kind of acceleration of what do you want to call it? Socialism, progressivism. Sometimes I can't tell the difference, but you know, to me, the left has been the same since 1789. We've got to tear down all the statues. We got to rename all the streets, call each other by different names. It used to be in the French Revolution, it was citizen, right? We all had to call each other citizen. Now they've got new names for the genders. And again, I'm not trying to be insensitive to some of the people that they talk about, but it's just always the same thing, and it never works. They want to tear down civilization and remake it into some kind of utopia. And even the utopia doesn't sound good to me.
Well, the First Amendment establishes the separation of church and state, and there's a lot of interpretations to that. But how does that relate to this new poll that we're seeing?
Well, you know, it's funny because the First Amendment, the very first words of it says that Congress, I should say, shall make no law regarding an establishment of religion. What does establishment mean? Establishment meant creating a national religion. And why did they, why were they concerned about that? Because 3 of the states, when the Bill of Rights was ratified, had their own state religions. So they didn't want those interfered with by a national religion. Now, I certainly don't want a state religion or a national religion, but, you know, this whole idea that the First Amendment means you can't say God in school or on any public space, that's not right. That's not historical. That's contrary. That's the opposite of what the First Amendment means. Somehow they've gotten away with it.
A South Carolina judge set bond for Alex Murdaugh at $7 million. Murdaugh is the disgraced attorney accused of setting up a suicidal insurance fraud scheme. Bond was supposed to be set for Murdaugh last week, but a hearing on 27 charges against him was delayed when prosecutors announced they were bringing 21 additional charges. Those new charges all stem from a scheme to defraud victims of more than $6 million. Murdaugh's case made national headlines in June when his wife and son were fatally shot outside his home. Murdaugh was then shot in the head in September, but survived. Authorities say he later admitted to orchestrating the attack on himself so his only surviving son could collect a $10 million life insurance policy. He denies any involvement in the death of his wife and son. Minneapolis suburbs are seeing crimes spill into their communities. A mayor said Sunday that his town has been under attack from mobile criminals. This while Minneapolis recently voted to no longer defund the police. Here are the details.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry and the city council increased the budget for the city's police department last Friday. The Minneapolis Police Department will get $191 million, essentially returning to levels before the Defund the Police movement. The mayor's office said the new budget reflects a sustained commitment to public safety. The police department lost about 300 officers during the past 2 years after the city cut their budget. The mayor expects to recruit more officers and replenish the police force to normal levels. Crime has surged in the city since the death of George Floyd last year. Since then, the city invested in alternative initiatives, but they have mostly failed to yield results. Earlier this year, activists called for abolishing the police altogether. Based on data collected by Neighborhood Scout, Minneapolis has one of the highest crime rates in the country compared to similar communities. Over 98% of other regions in Minnesota are considered safer than Minneapolis. An individual's chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime in Minneapolis is 1 in 18.
Officials expect Derek Chauvin to change his plea in the federal civil rights case against him this week. According to court documents, the former Minneapolis police officer is scheduled to appear for a plea hearing tomorrow. Chauvin is accused of depriving George Floyd's right to be free from unreasonable seizure, a charge that includes the right to be free from the use of unreasonable force by a police officer. Chauvin pleaded not guilty to the charges earlier this year. Back in June, he was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison after he was convicted on state murder charges of killing Floyd. Thieves reportedly stole thousands of catalytic converters from cars in California earlier this year. Law enforcement in California arrested 15 suspects, concluding their investigation in November. NTD's David Lamb reports.
Operation Cat Scratch Thiever was a 6-month investigation into catalytic converter thefts in San Jose. SJPD announced on Monday morning that 15 suspects were arrested. Detectives recovered illegal weapons, over $50,000 in cash, and over 1,000 catalytic converters that are believed to have been stolen from vehicles throughout the Bay Area. And police shut down 3 San Jose businesses that were suspected of knowingly purchasing stolen catalytic converters from street criminals. Catalytic converters are on the underside of a car and contain precious metals that can be sold. It can take less than 2 minutes to steal, but can cause thousands of dollars in damages. SJPD previously posted a theft prevention video.
If possible, park in a locked garage or in well-lit areas and in the view of any surveillance cameras. You can have your VIN or license plate number etched into the converter.
The officer also said there are aftermarket components people can install to protect their converters. Suspects have shot victims and witnesses who have interrupted the thefts. In 2019, there were less than 100 reports of stolen catalytic converters. That number jumped to over 700 last year and over 1,000 this year. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Coming up, the White House Historical Association unveils its 2021 Christmas ornament. This year's edition honors Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th President of the United States. And the San Jose Farmers Market is closing this Friday. Local farmers, vendors, and customers tell us what we shouldn't miss out on this final week. All that and more after the break.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. My employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all of your support. At MyPillow, we not only have pillows, but we have hundreds of products, including my new slippers, bathrobes, sleepwear, and my new beds. We're offering the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have this exclusive offer on the standard size MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. We also have the queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now only $24.98 with your promo code. And we have the king size, regularly $89.98, now only $29.98 with your promo code. So go to mypillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive this exclusive offer.
The White House Historical Association has been operating for 6 decades, and its longevity is partly due to the popularity of the official White House Christmas ornament collection. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
First Lady Jackie Kennedy created the Historical Association in 1961 to help pay for White House restoration and acquisition projects. Every year since 1981, the Historical Association has designed an ornament honoring a president or White House anniversary.
Our historians here and some of my colleagues here will think about the obvious images that relate to a presidency, but we don't always want to go with the obvious. We want to come up with something new and interesting as well to teach more about that presidency than may be popularly known.
The ornaments have become collectibles, with about 1 million now sold annually. The sales of these ornaments are a major funding source for the nonprofit, nonpartisan Historical Association. The official 2021 White House ornament honors President Lyndon B. Johnson, with its reproduction of a painting of the Blue Room tree the family had in December 1967.
But they've all been special and interesting, and I'm sure everybody has their own one that they like best. Traditionally, I'll tell you, the best sellers tend to be ornaments that depict the actual White House in some way or a Christmas tree.
Memories of a busy December 1967 in the White House come rushing back when Lucy Baines Johnson looks at this year's ornament honoring her father. The president had just been on his way back from Southeast Asia and Australia.
Every grandfather is so proud and so grateful and so hopeful for the next generation. And heaven knows that's what Lyndon Johnson's presidency was all about, trying to make a better life for that next generation. And there was his grandson on the footsteps of history and getting to share in it too.
Cmte, a veteran-owned company in Lincoln, Rhode Island, has made the ornament since 1981. The 2022 official ornament will honor Richard Nixon, the 37th President of the United States, with a design set to be unveiled at his presidential library in Yorba Linda, California on President's Day. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
There's a Christmas light display that puts Clark Griswold's home to shame. It landed a family in LaGrangeville, New York, a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records. Over 680,000 lights make up this magical display. It includes spirals, snowmen, animals, and dozens of icicles clinging to branches. The light display uses 8 miles of extension cords, and there is a line of cars nearly that long waiting to see the show. All of this is from the imagination of Tim and Grace Gay and their 3 children. It takes them 8 weeks to create this masterpiece. What started as 600 lights has grown to nearly 700,000. In 2014, they won the Guinness World Record for most lights. This year, they decided to beat their own record by a few 100,000. But it's not just about winning for this family. They team up with the Unionvale Fire Department every year to collect donations to support the firefighters and local charities. Last year, they raised more than $80,000, turning the season of giving into the season of smiles.
It's a family project I look forward to every year, a happy environment for everyone to come through. So we bring happiness from our family to the community.
That's what Christmas is all about, right? It's about family and friends and how we can help each other.
If you're wondering how much their electricity bill is, it's only a few $100s for the year thanks to LED and renewable energy. The display is open to all those to see through December 28th. Delta refunded more than 6.7 million tickets in 2020, totaling more than $3 billion. According to company policy, travelers are eligible for a full refund when Delta cancels a flight or makes a significant schedule change. The airline released this information ahead of Wednesday's Senate committee hearing with major airline representatives. Data from the Transportation Department shows there's been a surge in complaints over refunds since this pandemic started. Every Friday, you can shop locally grown organic fruits, vegetables, honey, and bakeries, and more at downtown San Jose Farmers Market. But the season will soon be over and close this Friday. Our team heard from local farmers, participants, and their customers.
Hi, how are you? Good, how are you? Good, thank you.
During the pandemic, many street markets closed down. But in San Jose, the downtown farmers market lives on.
The Downtown Association has been running a farmers market in downtown San Jose for 25 plus years.
It partnered with the Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association.
And we are loving it down here. The farmers love being with us. We've got wonderful artisans over there. Our partner PCFMA, Pacific Coast Farmers Market Association, is who actually runs the farmer side. And then the Downtown Association takes care of the artisan vendors.
Next to Donna is a fruit vendor named Robert from Fresno County.
We have about 120 different varieties of organic fruit.
Robert is working for Kent's Top Notch, which sells certified organic fruits.
So what we have here, this is a Fuji persimmon. This is a good source of vitamin C. This is, ooh, that doesn't look good. I got plenty of fruit though.
A vegetable vendor sells organically grown broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and oyster mushrooms. The merchant told us they sell quickly, so they are trying to bring more fresh products from their farm for next week. Startups can also visit the market to connect with potential clients and engage with their community. KiwiBot General Manager Victor Navarro brought his little delivery robot.
To reactivate the economy is also a good exercise. We need to come out. Everybody's afraid after the pandemic. So yeah, and look at the day. It's a sunny, beautiful day. Why not to come?
Victor encourages people to visit this farmer's market.
I was a teacher. I taught math and science in middle school, and I retired last year. We couldn't make enough money off of just selling honey.
Mark started selling beeswax candles to make his business stable, which is his most popular item. The handmade candle burns naturally and is smokeless and dripless.
There's a lot of variety, and it's nice to see a lot of the local folks come out and show all their talents and all their goods.
We sell organic cold-pressed juices in our area. We've been in business for the past 4 years now.
Many vendors recommended Sweet Dragon, a bakery.
We use organic flour, organic sugar, organic fruits when we can get them.
According to the owner, the popular items are triple berry pie and chicken pot pie. She has an open kitchen in San Jose. Everyone looks forward to seeing customers on the final week.
A Harvard University nanotechnology professor is going on trial this week. He's charged with lying about his ties to a China-run recruitment program and concealing funding he received from the Chinese regime. Charles Lieber is an ex-chair of Harvard's chemistry department. Prosecutors say Lieber became a strategic scientist at Wuhan University of Technology in 2011. Through that, he participated in a Chinese recruitment initiative called the 1,000 Talents Program. U.S. authorities say Beijing uses the program to entice foreign researchers to share knowledge, skills, and intellectual property with China. In return, China funds their research. The Wuhan University gave Lieber more than $1.5 million to establish a Chinese lab. On top of that, it agreed to pay him $50,000 a month, plus $150,000 in annual living expenses. Prosecutors say the professor lied to investigators about his involvement. Lieber has pleaded not guilty to 6 false statement and tax charges. Starbucks is offering an apology after a report said that 2 of its shops in China used expired ingredients. A state-backed newspaper, the Beijing News, reported on what it described as an undercover investigation. Investigators said the incidents occurred at 2 stores in the eastern Chinese city of Wuxi. Reports said one of the Starbucks stores used expired matcha liquid to make lattes, while another had put pastries up for sale that were meant to be thrown away. The incident started trending on a Chinese social media site after the report was published. Starbucks initially said it had shut the 2 stores and was carrying out an investigation. Later, Starbucks found that the two stores had committed violations and that the company had not sufficiently paid attention to food safety standards. Starbucks says it will now carry out inspections and staff training across all of its roughly 5,400 stores in China. The firm's latest earnings report showed that China is the largest market for Starbucks outside the United States. The Chinese regime and its state-backed media have a history of targeting foreign companies. At least 50 people were killed when a fuel truck exploded in a street in Haiti's second-largest city, Cap Haitian, during the night, the city mayor said today. The local hospital was stretched trying to treat the many injured. The truck carrying gasoline overturned around midnight in the eastern end of Cap Haitian, according to local media. As rescue workers cleaned up in the aftermath of the explosion, bodies covered in white sheets were loaded onto trucks to be taken away. The government declared 3 days of mourning for the dead. The United Nations office in Haiti says it stood ready to help the national authorities in its response and offered its condolences to the families of the victims. The tragedy comes as Haiti experiences a severe fuel shortage as gangs have seized control of the fuel distribution around the country. Gangs have grown more powerful since the July assassination of President Jovenel Moïse, which created a political vacuum and allowed criminal groups to expand their territory. Just ahead, hordes of gold miners gathered along the Amazon River looking to make a fortune. The scale of their operation has alarmed the international community. And the port of Barcelona is now a leader in the Mediterranean for refitting and maintenance of yachts. And the pandemic highlights the perks wealthy owners enjoy. All that and more after the break.
I will bless those who bless you.
Here in Israel and the former Soviet Union, the Jewish people are living in very difficult times. There are now thousands of destitute, elderly Jews who are desperately in need of basic food. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is on the ground with survival food boxes, but the need for food is growing. Call or go online now and say, I will bless these children of Abraham.
It's the elderly widows who are hurting the most. Many of them are also Holocaust survivors who are once again crying out for help. Their need, as you can see, is extremely urgent.
Right now, you can give a gift of life of $25 that will help rush an emergency food box to an elderly Jewish person who doesn't have enough to eat. When you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives.
For over 35 years, this trusted ministry has given Christians like me a way to tangibly bless Jewish people who are in need throughout the world.
Wherever in the world the Jewish people have the greatest need, our spiritual mandate is to feed the hungry and to care for the widows and orphans.
Together, we bring them comfort and love, but just as important, we bring them this life-saving food box.
When you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives. Without your response, their pain and suffering will continue.
Call or go online now and say, I will save a life. I will bless and comfort the Jewish people.
Illegal miners have again gathered along the Amazon River. They've come to dig for gold, but this time their operation unfolded on a staggering scale, drawing international concerns. Let's take a look.
Along the Madeira River, one of the Amazon's largest tributaries, some 400 illegal gold mining barges have converged. They formed rows of floating houses along the wide and muddy river. A miner explained that thousands came to the area after one person reportedly found gold here.
This year there wasn't much gold around, so when we found a good gold, we all came looking for this gold.
Brazil's vice president announced an imminent police operation nearby the area last week, prompting the miners to depart and head elsewhere along the river. Smaller gatherings of barges are common in the region, but images of this vast flotilla have sparked international attention. Miners and their families live, eat, and work on the wood-walled rafts. Some are equipped with satellite internet and air conditioning units.
In this barge, it's only family. Son, grandson, nephew, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, only our family.
Another miner said one barge collected about 60 grams of gold, worth over $3,000 if it's pure. That's the result from a 40-hour workload. Environmentalists have denounced the miners for using mercury to separate gold from raw sediment. The process gives off toxic vapors, and some of what's used spills into the river. Once mercury enters an environment, it can poison marine life as far as 300 miles downstream. Mercury contamination and exposure may also cause cognitive problems, as well as sensory changes and high blood pressure. In 2019, Brazil's president vowed to legalize some types of now banned mining operations. The move has made mining a more sensitive issue.
It's the perfect conjuncture. You don't have an environmental license, but you have political license. And this political license encourages those who live out of illegal gold extraction.
Illegal gold mining is among several factors that drives deforestation in the region, something that's seen an upward trend since 2014 in the Brazilian Amazon.
The port of Barcelona is now a leader in the Mediterranean for refitting and maintenance of yachts, and for the ultra-wealthy, superyachts. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
Since the early 1990s, the number of yachts moored at the Port of El Marina has increased dramatically, and the pandemic highlighted the perks wealthy owners enjoy.
The world of yachts is now open to a wider niche of billionaires, and this pandemic we've suffered from has helped them to discover it. People owning their own yachts were able to create their own bubble and stay on board in different locations around the world, without the need of being under lockdown in a city.
The number of superyachts in the world has more than doubled in the past decade. Right now, over 20 superyachts are being serviced here at the same time. The average cost of a refit is around $1 million, but can go up to $22 million.
For some ships, the cost for decoration is $17,000 per square meter, some $34,000 per square meter, and some ships reach $68,000 per square meter. Then you must add personal works of art. It isn't just about the materials. In the end, the total cost depends on many different factors, including the material. Costs can be exorbitant, from $339 million to $678 million. We will never know.
Over 600 crew members live on board superyachts while they are refitted or maintained. Artifact is one of them. It's one of the world's newest superyachts. The 260-foot hybrid superyacht is easily recognizable for its geometric glass windows. Its annual running costs average just under 10% of its $150 million price tag.
You know, there's a lot more money in the world now than there was after the last recession. There's a lot more wealth, and also too, it's harder to get the reward or the satisfaction out of life. And yachting brings something at a totally different level and a more controllable vacation.
The market is booming at the moment. According to Boat International, year-over-year sales rose by 46% during the first quarter of 2021. As the economy started to bounce back, meaning more potential customers for MB92. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Real Betis supporters threw thousands of stuffed toys onto the soccer field during halftime of their La Liga match. In what's an annual tradition, Real Betis fans throw toys onto the soccer field during the last home match of the year. It's to ensure children in need don't go without a present at Christmas. Thousands of toys flew through the air, landing on the grass or being caught by some of the club staff. The staff will later deliver them to children in Seville and the surrounding area. It's estimated over 19,000 toys were thrown and collected, and the match resumed on time with no delay. The fans were rewarded for their generosity as Real Betis beat Real Sociedad 4-0. Paris 2024 organizers are getting ready to put on a spectacular show, the Summer Olympics opening ceremony. They expect at least 600,000 spectators to attend. The organizing committee is taking note. This is the first time an Olympic opening ceremony will be celebrated outside a stadium. Athletes and delegations will instead sail along the river Seine to kick off the games. Some 160 boats will set on the nearly 4-mile journey this July. The lower part of the riverbank will be subject to ticketing, but those hoping to catch a glimpse will have free viewing access to the upper section. Spectators will get to marvel at holograms on the water, dancers on the roofs of nearby buildings, and aerial shows. Plus, around 80 giant screens will be installed along the route. The International Olympic Committee approved the project last month. Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.